Hello and welcome to another End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your Lady in Tech. Hello, Pixipui. I want to welcome you to the End User Talk podcast, and I want to also thank you for taking out time in your very busy schedule to be with me today. But welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's the first time this has happened, so I'm very excited.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. I stumbled across you, and I really enjoyed what I did see, and I said, you know what? Let me get her on the podcast so we can talk. So I'm glad you're here. So this is an honor for me as well. Before we do get started, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, my name is Pixipui, or Ray, however you'd like to say my name, I suppose. I'm a variety streamer who does 3D art and animation, as well as games on every console that's currently out there. And when the new ones come out, I'll be doing those ones too. I suppose in general, I've been and am a freelance 3D artist, a YouTuber, a Twitcher, and a video game demonstrator as well.
Okay, so you're on multiple platforms, also on YouTube as well. So that's good to know. Thank you for that information. What does a 3D artist and animator do?
So as a 3D artist, since I've chosen to be a generalist, this means that I create the model of a character, as I prefer doing characters rather than environments and buildings. So you would make and create a person or a thing, and then you take it to a texturing stage. You'd give it color, you'd make some nice texture materials for the clothes or for the skin or whatever else have you. And then with the animation part, it means, okay, once you've sucked the bones in, you're able to create life, pretty much. You get to make this thing come to life. You get to make it move. You get to make it dance, make people feel like, oh, look, it's alive. One of those kind of things. It's pretty much, it's a mini God complex, I suppose. But you pretty much are taking something that doesn't exist and you're making it come to life.
Okay. It's kind of like when we were kids and we had our dolls or action figures, and bringing those from our imagination into life on camera, similar to that.
Exactly like that, except you can make your own thing. You don't have to use somebody else's template. You can make it directly from whatever you've got in your mind.
How were you introduced into 3D?
I think it was probably growing up, my background history, because my parents are gamers. So my big sis and I grew up playing video games, and including the PS1 and the N64, where you had low poly video game characters that you were playing with. Dancing and music was a really big thing. So I did grow up playing games like Space Channel 5 and Buster Groove, where you had these characters dancing to the music. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted to be able to do that. I knew I wanted to make that. I didn't know how though. And when I got into secondary school, it still was in the back of my mind. I knew I wanted to create something and make it dance. That's literally my only goal in life, is to make something and make it dance, make it look good. Perfect. So I think when I got to the end of secondary school and I was looking for colleges to go off to, I realized, oh, hold on, this thing is 3D. Let me see if I can find somewhere where they can teach me some 3D. And I ended up doing to Maidstone University for the creative arts, just doing multimedia. So I was able to take a look at everything, had a small bit of doing some 3D stuff, and realized, oh, yeah, this is it. This is definitely it. This is my segue to being able to make my lifelong goal happen. And so I went to Rochester University, UCA. Oh, what was it now? Rochester. It was for the creative arts. It's still the same place, but that was it. It was arts and animation was the course that I did, which was able to help me actually make the model and do the stuff that I'm doing now, pretty much.
The arts has so much influence in so many different areas. I mean, it's not just music. It's, it's theater, the cartoons we grew up watching, the video games. whether you realize it or not, we are surrounded and we are subliminally, okay. We are,
Subliminally?
thank you,
That's okay.
influenced by these things. And
Oh,
without you,
absolutely.
yeah. And so without you being able to put into words, you know what, this is what I want to do, or this is who I want to be.
Oh,
And
for sure.
you know, it's just so funny how certain things are impressed upon us and we are adamant to reach that goal and make it a reality for us. How it was innocent the way you came into this and you just kept looking until you found it. And I think that's amazing.
Thank you. My background, my parents are creatives as well. So it's kind of squished into one. My mum, even though she does makeup and special effects stuff, she did life art. So I already drew. And then my dad, he's an entertainer and he would do stuff at the Notting Hill Carnival and for the mayor and stuff like that. But he'd be dancing. So I knew I liked art and dance already. And then seeing this in like the game form, because we love doing games as a family. So games have been equated with love and all of that jazz for me. So it's like, okay, oh, these two things that my parents do, this is this in like another way, another expanded way to bring it together. And I feel like that might have been the bit that sucked me into it, because my sister, she does the 2D version of this. She does 2D animation and I do 3D animation. So like we're still in the same creative bubble that we were surrounded by, that we were influenced by, but then kind of taken our own bits from it and expanded out.
You know what? Your household sounds so cool. You basically were able to draw beforehand. During your schooling, did you take any additional art classes?
No, actually. The time that I'm realizing now this isn't a common thing. In my secondary school, we had DT where we were able to kind of just use Photoshop or other programs willy-nilly. There was an art section when I was able to pick the stuff I wanted to do. I actually went and did fashion instead, which did kind of lead on later on with the character design, because it's once you make a character, you need to know what they're going to wear. But I've always loved the way that, my mom's a seamstress as well. So we had clothing books and old books with old fashion styles and the way that they would draw the elongated models and the clothes. So having the chance to do fashion, I was able to kind of mix that art style, that kind of art section in, while keeping it in something that I actually enjoyed as well.
You are just making me. I miss so much growing up.
Oh, no.
This is why this is cool, because everyone's experience is different. And this is why it is important for us to be able to share with others all of the possibilities out there. There is so much that we can learn from one another. And I think that this is the best way for us to be able to introduce to people. Do you need to know how to draw in order to become a 3D artist and animator?
No, you do not. It's a plus. I'll tell you why it's a plus. You don't need it though. Usually, especially if you're going into a workplace, somebody else has already drawn it. You just need to make it 3D. If you're able to do it yourself, one, that means that all the resources are kept in-house. You don't need to pay anyone to make a character design if you are freelance and doing your own kind of stuff. And secondly, you know when it's being done, and if it's not being done, why? And that's one of the main lessons that uni taught me. If you can't do a certain bit or you have to give it to somebody else, you're kind of at their whim. So if you're able to draw and you want to do 3D, merge it, use it, definitely use it.
Is this a hobby for you, or is this also your career or professional choice?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never whittled it down to that. I think it's forever been a passion. I don't think I'd call it a career, because I chose not to go into 3D in a workplace. I chose to stay freelance to kind of keep it like a hobby, but because there's a problem with sometimes when you do the thing that you love but for somebody else, is that it sometimes kills it and you still want to do it, but you can't get back to the place that you were. So I'm not sure. I don't think I can answer that. I think it might just be a passion.
That's a great answer. I do understand where you're coming from. Someone else may not see your vision and you may not see someone else's vision. If you turn it into where you're working with someone else professionally, it does kind of strip the intent. The creative process is not fully seen.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay when you know that you're doing someone someone else's thing, but my mother took, well, I guess the main shift of our whole family, I think maybe it was in the last year or the last 2 years when she went to a Tony Robbins course and had an epiphany. One thing that they had mentioned was while working in a 9 to 5 place is nice for the stability and everything like that. When you're doing the work, there's no evidence of what you've done. You're doing somebody else's work. Yeah, you might be able to show the little bit that you've done. For instance, if I was going to be a modeler, yeah, I'd be able to model Lara Croft, but Square Enix's name will be on it. It wouldn't be my piece. Your name might be in the credits, but you don't get to go off and be like, oh, you know, I've made this thing. It's great. Yeah, but this is Square Enix. This is this thing. This is this particular thing. It's not really yours.
I understand and I do see where you're coming from. Great point. You are a freelancer. So what does that mean for you? What does that look like?
That means and looks like sometimes being on Fiverr, especially in the beginning. Fiverr is a website where you can find artists or pretty much anybody of any skill level and pay them from as low as a Fiverr, which you shouldn't. They're normally up it if they are kind of settled in whatever they're doing, to pay them to do something. So I've done a few things on there, which is, I guess, looks like you're sitting at home, you're on your phone, looking at buyer requests is how they've set it up, seeing if people need something that you can do, and you kind of go out there and offer your services. And then when you get enough traction and people see what you do, they come to you. Sometimes it might be about making their own personal model, could be about making a sculpt that's life size, a sculpt to scale. So for instance, I had a girl that wanted Majora's Mask from Zelda. She wanted to print it out at a certain size, but she wanted certain bits to come off. So it's like, okay, you take somebody else's vision, you get as much information as your current client, and you try to make their piece come to life on a temporary job.
Is the difficulty level with bringing someone else's creation, is that a difficult process? Second part to that question, is it more difficult than you being the creator?
I would say no, because normally I wouldn't end up taking on one that I wouldn't think I could do. So normally it's within the realms of what I can do. So I know I'll be able to bring whatever they've got in their head to light. And normally along the way, I show them a lot of screenshots to make sure it's working, so that I've not just gotten all the way to the end and they're like, oh, this is not really what I had in mind. It's like, no, we've seen it going up. If there was a change, they normally say it straight out of the bat. So normally the change bits, or where the difficulty would come up, is maybe in the beginning half while they're seeing it being formed. They're like, oh, can you tweak this? Can you do this a little bit? And normally the tweaking or the doing or whatever to make their vision come together, it's normally together when you're getting close to the end, because normally when you're making stuff at the beginning, it does, as my father would say, looks a bit like an alien. It doesn't quite look right until you're near the end half, but it's not too bad. Depends on if you've got a finicky client though, but it's not too bad.
So I've always wondered, like writers say they have writer's block occasionally. Is it similar for an artist?
Yeah, you do. You do get artist block. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. Some of my, because I have a lot of friends who are normally doing 2D, some that do 3D as well. It's like you're in a chastity belt of your passion and you can see it, but you can't touch it. You try to make stuff and it doesn't look right and you can't fix it and you don't know why. And you're just kind of like, you're trapped there because you really want to do it, but it doesn't want you right now.
Right.
It's an awful cycle.
I don't know if doing this professionally helps with writing or creative process.
Well, I think it could help because you don't have to think.
You at least know, well, this is my part and this is all I'm responsible for. In that regard, that does lend you a little bit of a break from having to be completely responsible for an entire project. It's kind of almost like an assembly line.
Oh, it totally is. I tend to lovingly, because there's a part, no, I don't think I want to anymore, actually. Never mind. But lovingly, whenever people ask me about the 3D stuff, and it's like, oh, do you work in a company? And it's like, no, I wanted to be a cog in the wheel. So that's technically what you are. You're making one arm and then you give the arm to someone else and they texture it and then the other person will put a bone in it and then it is an assembly line.
This sounds, what you're explaining to me, it sounds amazing. It's almost medical. It's so much like being anatomically correct. It's just so amazing to be able to be exposed to so much more than your little mind can assess or attain.
I get that.
I enjoy this conversation. So I'm so glad you're here sharing this with me. I want to delve more into the 3D artistry, but I also want to give credence to the fact that you're also a gamer. So I don't want to ignore that fact either. What game types do you like or gravitate to?
Everything apart from army games, except for Army of Two, and football games, apart from FIFA 98, which was on the Mega Drive, because that looked like Grand Theft Auto, and that was funny. So everything apart from those two.
You are also a female, and you are also Black. I'm going to speak more so to the gaming side of it. Has your experience been negative or surprising to the people that view your streams?
Good question. I think this ties into something else as well, actually. Sometimes I get people who are there who are like, oh, I was looking for another person of color, person to follow, or this or that. I didn't know what POC stood for. I feel like maybe that's a new term, the new acronym. I've not seen that before. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, I realized there are people out there that they don't have that kind of representation, or they were given like a sort of limitation, which is why it's nice that there's groups like the Black Girl Gamers to help. I didn't realize how many people didn't have that limitation put on them. I think this kind of stems back to my upbringing. My sis and I, our mum and dad, we played games together. So as far as I saw, games were for everyone and for every gender. Because I grew up in London, it's a mixed bag of all kinds of races and nationalities and all of that jazz. And we would have people come to our house because we would have all the games, all the up-to-date games. As far as I was concerned, it was for everyone. It was only until I got into uni that I encountered that the other girls didn't play games, which was shocking. I thought everyone did. I know you have those moments where when you're little, you think everybody is like your family, and then you realize, oh no, there's actually differences. Got there and it's like, oh no, there are girls that don't play games. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, and apparently only boys play games. Oh, I've never heard that before. All of this, it's like, oh, there's nothing that I grew up with. So it's mainly seeing so the fact that this person's saying this must be something that they've encountered. Whereas it's like, it's completely different on my end. So it's an amusing, sounds like a psychological study, but it's an amusing, oh, I see what you were around. I see what kind of environment you must have seen, kind of thing.
And that's what makes this so complicated. Games are for everyone, every gender. When you purchase a game, it doesn't say for males only. It doesn't say it's for a particular racial group. Games are meant to be enjoyed. Games are meant in some forms or fashion to be competitive. Games are also meant to be challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever the intent is, it was never, at least from my perspective, meant to be segregated.
It seems like it must have been a old wives' tale kind of thing, because there's a lot of those that people just started to unanimously say, and then obviously when you believe it, you give yourself that limitation.
I remember the Street Fighters, and of course
yes.
when Nintendo came out, my grandmother felt, I'll get you all a little gaming console, so we played Mario Brothers, and I remember all of these games that I played, and it was never boys only, girls only, blacks only, whites only. That is why it's also troubling to go to a place like Twitch or YouTube and all of the other outlets that showcase gamers, live streamers, to hear that, oh, you're a girl, oh, you're Black. It is unanimous with some of the other live streamers I've spoken to. It's the same thing, but it's almost like you're not meant to do this.
Interesting. I think lately I've had a shift of thinking, or how I interpret things, or how I take them on, which is normally to not do that. Most of the issues so far, especially from what my teacher was teaching me, most of the issues that we have, especially when you have a thought like that, it's because you've commented on somebody else's comment, pretty much. The fact that they've not seen this to make them want to say that, nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the person that they're saying it to. It's for some reason they've had this environment, they've grown up with seeing a certain thing, and they've just had this epiphany that, oh, you're a Black person, oh, you're doing this thing. And from the person that's being said to or is looking at it, it'd be like, oh, okay, so you grew up around that. Oh, I see. Nothing beyond that. I think that might be where the shift is, because it's always at that point, because what somebody else is saying has no bearing on what I do or don't do. All of this is completely random. So it's a bit like, oh, so I can kind of get more of an insight onto your upbringing, what you've been surrounded by. You're this and you're that, but it doesn't affect your ability to do whatever you're doing. It's not like you're going to get lasered down because of those words.
You're correct in not lending to comments like that. POC, or people of color, it's a recent acronym, if you will. It lends or speaks to segregation.
Yeah, I don't really like, which is ironic though, because I thought people didn't like the term people of color. I know my parents didn't mind it because that's what people said to Black people, but it wasn't out of a malice place. It's just what they were called at that time, because they're 53 now. They're born in 67. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, this person of color, people of color. I swear, maybe I'm imagining this, but I swear, like a few years ago, people didn't like being called people of color. So me reading that, I thought, oh, Is it a slight? And it's like, oh no, people are saying it positively. Okay, I'm with you. I've never, and again, it's probably my upbringing as well. We didn't really associate with external families. We're very British in our four walls, but I've never really gotten a chance to get to know the extended family, who I know from the bits that I've seen from them, I think they might enjoy their segregation a bit too much. And I don't like the them and us kind of thing. It's more like, well, we're all one person. We're all the same. There's no point in segregation. I thought we were trying to be, come together. So by us putting more boxes up, it's just going to create an issue. So at least I remember in the 90s, a lot of things are different. I feel like an older person now. Oh my gosh. When they always say, it wasn't like that when I was younger. It's like, yeah, but it wasn't.
I don't like having the conversation lead to this, but unfortunately it is the reality. It's amazing that you grew up in a household to where your parents tried to teach you.
Can I say, what's funny is they didn't do any of that. The actions, because I know it's always actions over words. We were never shown a particular thing. So we didn't end up taking that kind of thing on. I remember the only time that I noticed that there was a difference between me and white people, I suppose, was when there was an advert that came on TV and the little white girl was like curling her hair in her comb. And I did the same thing and my hair got stuck in the comb and my hair had to be cut. So I had a fringe and then I realized, okay, there's a difference.
That too, but with my bangs on picture day.
You see, but this is one of those, oh my gosh. And I wonder if I can get up a, oh my gosh, if you don't mind, because it seems so appropriate. There's somebody on YouTube called Zero Punctuation. His name is Yahtzee. And I agree with what he said, because this is sort of what we grew up in, which is you're not told a certain thing, but everybody's included. You don't get given these segregated things. You know the facts, you know the history, but it doesn't alter how you behave. What he said was, a society where everyone can make jokes about everyone else and everyone laughs is a truly tolerant society. Political correctness change censorship only serves to endanger resentment and distance between social groups. Political correctness charged censorship only serves to engender resentment and distance between social groups, which is why I don't like the segregation of anything. Yeah, you black people, white people, Asian people were. Yeah, but beyond that, why need there be another group, another section, another segregation? It's only going to cause, I know people like to group themselves up. They want to be together, but then they want to be better or different or one of these words. And so they make another group, which causes another set of people to feel like they're left out. Yeah. It seems like not a good cycle.
It's a social separation. Art within itself it's a world of creativity. It's a world of acceptance. It's a world of exploration. It's a world that has no boundaries. But this is why I talk to people like yourself.
You are right. It is all psychological. Ironically, my mum and I were having a discussion yesterday. She was talking about how her dad had an ice cream van and all she ever saw him do was work. So she had instilled in her, okay, you gotta do hard work at something that you probably don't really like. And she was saying that she was thankful that my sis and I grew up seeing her and dad doing stuff that they liked to do and being able to make money from it. So as far as we were concerned, okay, well, this is how it is. But I know if they were in a different kind of work, we probably would have gone the typical 9-to-5 route, maybe doing something that we didn't like until we hit 60, to try to, even though we're enforced to retirement now with the quarantine, but
right,
to be like, okay, I'm 60 and I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. Nah.
Right.
So hearing you say this, I'm very grateful with what I saw, with what I subliminally knew that I could do. And they gave us stuff whenever we wanted to try something. We were able to try it and drop it whenever we wanted to. So we didn't have which is also a problem in itself, but we didn't have okay, well, you have to do this thing that you don't like. It's like, okay, well, when you're done with this thing, right, move on to the next goal, move on to the next thingamabob. That's why I really like I really like what you do, because I don't think I realized how important it could be to those that are still trapped by that. It takes a while to get out of what somebody else is saying and to listen to yourself and do what you want to do, because that's the only thing that's important at the end of the day. But getting to that bit where you realize, I'm going to do what I want to do. That's it. As soon as you get to there, nothing else catches on to you. None of this, your type of people can't do this, your gender can't do this, your blah, 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 blah. As soon as you're like, okay, I want to do this for me, as soon as you're not trying to do something for somebody else's expectation or somebody else's validation, you're free.
And that's what it is. And it's freedom to make a choice about whatever your purpose in life is. And a purpose really is simply simply put a plan that needs to be executed. And also within that plan of execution, you be open to making mistakes.
Absolutely.
But understand that you're constantly growing. It's a constant transition.
On the fact of what you have done, especially with people realizing that there's a gap in the market, like somebody that I met on Twitch recently, I met her at the Twitch event, Ebonic Sims. She makes...
I love her.
There you go. After meeting someone like her and a few other people, yeah, there might not be a space for you, inverted commas, as in, oh, there's no black hair or black stuff in The Sims. She found a market. She made the stuff. Just like what you've done with your podcast and your show. No, this thing doesn't exist because they've not thought about to do it for people like you. Okay, I'm going to make it. As soon as you decide to make it, it's there and people come. So that was it. That's the thing that made me think of, I just had to say it.
Well, thank you. But people like you inspired me in this new focal point. I have 3 daughters. I need my 3 daughters to see people like you, to let them know that there are careers that you can do. There are, whether you consider it a hobby, whether it's just your passion, as you've mentioned, I need them to be able to see people that look like them so that they can be inspired.
Right.
And I think representation is important. Reality is, in the world of tech, there's not a whole lot of representation of us in male and or female. There's a large difference within pay scale even. What made you present what you do in this live streaming?
I think that would be my big sister. She used to do Twitch long before me. I used to stream on Picato.tv, which is another live streaming platform. But it would have to be my sis because she was doing the Twitch streaming and she's a model. She's the character for Man of Medan she's the character that is Fleece in Man of Medan. She's a model. So she's used to having her face being shown and seen and stuff. And I would see her on Twitch doing her artwork while doing that. And then eventually she came over and she saw that I was streaming as well. And she said, I think you should go to Twitch. You might as well. Like, just move yourself over there. It'll be a lot better and you'll be able to get seen more while doing the same thing or doing whatever you want to do, but just do it over there because it's a lot bigger than Picato.
Okay, so you are a gamer. Do you have a specific type of gaming console or does it not matter?
It's a funny thing. I like how all of my answers always whip around to like the same thing. I think my definition of a gamer is somebody that plays on everything. I don't have... The console isn't what I love. It's the thing that's on it. If I could play games without having to get a console, I probably would. Like my favorite game of all time, Space Channel 5 Part 2. I've got it on the PS2. I've got it on the PS3. I got it on Steam. Again, it's like, okay, as long as I'm able to play it.
I like that answer. What is the expectation of someone who follows you on Twitch? How do you set the stage?
I try to make it, because I've got the entertainer and the small stint of acting stuff that I did when I was younger. I try to make it entertaining. I try to make it a show, which to my detriment, it could be, because I know my mum and my sister aren't happy about the fact that I don't take breaks and I stream from 3 till 10. It used to be 3 till 12 p.m. But it's a 3 till 10 now. They asked me to pull it in. But in my mind, it's like a TV show. It's like a show on Netflix and I don't like adverts. So I don't normally do the toilet break. If I can, I'm gonna be here. I don't normally need to go to the loo that often anyway. But it's like, okay, it's going to be one straight show of stuff that they can interact with, stuff that they can watch and have a laugh with, maybe something that they can listen to and be like, oh, this is an interesting story if we're doing a voice acting bit, if it's a walkthrough Wednesday, for instance, or, it's Jacking Friday for Jackbox. I'm going to be able to join in and play. Or, as a lot of the people that I've gratefully been able to have are also artists. And so I think like when you came in, I was doing an art stream. There'll be people that are either starting out or people that are ahead of me. They're in the companies, they're in the gaming companies and admire their art, who pop in and they're like, I'm working too. I like to have like a study date kind of thing. Like when other artists or anybody else that went to university and were doing work and you would meet up with your friends at their house and you'd be together, but you'd be doing your own thing and you'd be chatting with them. I wanted to kind of create that kind of relaxed environment where you don't feel like you have to do anything in particular. Well, this person's working, let me work with them. They're playing, they're having fun. I want to have fun too. I'm not having a good day. Like some people come in and they might mention maybe once, they don't always say it, but they might mention that they weren't having a good day and I was able to cheer them up. I want to create something. I think that's my purpose really in life, is to create something where I can make people happy, where I can cheer them up for a second. So the design of the stream and all of the content that I make is to make people happy.
Well, I think you solidified clarified that, and that's definitely clear within your streaming. You also are teaching. When I came across your channel, you were doing a 3D rendering of a piece. Does that mean you have a 3D printer?
No, I don't. But there's two parts to this. When you're rendering, it kind of just means it's like taking up the old school pictures where you'd flash a picture and then you hang it in the red room to let it dry. It's pretty much the computer was doing that on each of the scenes. If I was animating, it would have to take a picture of every single frame, or I might have rendered one picture, rendered just to mean it's developing. But with the 3D printer, I did want one, and it is cool. I do know some people that have one, but I kind of, after talking to a friend of mine, she was saying, oh, actually, isn't there like places that do that for you? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I actually use iMaterialize for the Lil Cuties, the 3D models I make for my subscribers. I use iMaterialize to create the model or sculpt it. Actually, I got one today, but I didn't want to open it until I finished my work. So it's sitting on my sofa. But pretty much any model that I make, I put it on their website, they print it out, and then they send it to me, and then it's available on the shop for other people to buy. And I've found, even though it's nice to have a printer of your own because it's in your house, the only problem with that is that you have to buy the materials. You know, it's very costly. You got to buy the printer, then you've got to buy the materials, then you've got to keep refilling the materials like it's a normal ink printer. But because I'm using somebody else to do it, I don't have to buy the materials, I don't have to buy the printer, I just have to pay for the model once for it to come out, and that's it.
That is so exciting. I want one of the Pixipui models. I think that is amazing. It has been a true pleasure speaking with you today, getting your experience. So what I want to do is, since we're winding down, I want to give you an opportunity to mention anyone who you'd like to at this point.
So much free space. It's always the time when you run a blank, isn't it? I think I'd like to thank all the people that Twitch has made me in contact with, and all of the 6 degrees of separation. People like, her name is Malula, Inelius, Wonders, KLB, Ebonic Sims, freaking awesome, Cassie Hughes, CJ Rains, Nami Chan, my mods, freaking Gigai, who's the mod for almost every video game demonstrator I know now. Boy, it's taken on so much work. He deserves so much from us, honestly. Clem, Tails. I probably have to end it on my family as well, because without the upbringing that I had, I don't think I would be doing this stuff, because I wouldn't have realized that it was something that could be done. And more importantly, you, Jamila, thank you for creating a platform like this, because you saw that it was needed. You knew it was needed, and now you've gone out and you've freaking done it, and for having me on here. And I hope, I don't know, maybe something that we talked about here is helpful for whoever is listening. Maybe it will give them that little kick up the butt that they need to get started on what they actually want to do without lingering on the limitations that somebody else has set.
You have been such an inspiration. You know what? If someone is not motivated after this or empowered, I don't know what to say for them. But it's been a true honor for me to be able to speak with you today. I mean, I just reached out to you on a whim, and this has just been more than what I expected, more than just a question and answer session. So thank you for taking the time out. Our time differences are crazy. So again, I do appreciate you. Continued success in everything that you're taking on now, any future projects. Where can we find you?
You could probably find me on, because the most place that I'm more regularly on is Twitch at the moment. So that would be twitch.tv/Pixipui. But anywhere, if you type Pixipui into Google, all of them are me. So pretty much any social media that's linked to that. Anything with Pixipui, that's me.
Thank you, Pixipui. Have a good one. Thanks. We've come to the close of another episode of the End User Talk podcast. I hope that what you've heard today will leave you feeling empowered. Thank you for listening. And remember, every day's a training day.